Hello there. Hopefully my audio is all right. Okay. All right. Let's see about. I think my. Oh, perfect. Hello there. Glad my chat's working. I've never done this before, so I'm just seeing if everything works all right. Please do let me know if the audio is all right and fiddling with it. So perfect. And hello there. Right now, I am going to be working on some of the residential block maps. They're a bit older, um, and I want to try and optimize them a little bit and get them more modernized and run better. Okay, all right. Let us switch over to that now. So, don't know how many of you have worked with Hammer before, but this is Hammer Plus Plus. It's a modified version of regular Hammer. There's a couple interesting little things to it. Um, some of them, because this is Gmod, not all of them are available to use, but there's still a lot of cool stuff. I've already done some work on this. This is the cleaned up pre-war version, um, mostly replacing certain props and entities with ones that I had created previously to try and optimize other maps. So, for example, um, been replacing these door frames with props, having a bunch of door frames made out of the brushes or sort of like this level geometry hurts the ability for these maps to run as optimally as possible. So by replacing these, makes it a little easier. Doing a Source 2 stream might actually be a interesting idea in the future. But right now, let us get into this. So, as you can see here in the Viz groups, actually, let's do. Did I not group that up? I might not have. Let's try this. I did not. Okay. So, let us group all of this together. I'd already grouped up all the new stuff I'd put in through a Viz group. Viz groups are sort of ways to change the visibility of things in Hammer. So let's group this up. So select all of it. And now it's in more of a physical group. So now I can move and select everything all at once. And there we go. Now, is there anything else I need to replace? No, I did that before. Placed all those. Oh, and I'm also going to add in a couple extra little details here and there. When I first released the map, I wasn't quite happy with some of the detailing in a couple areas. So maybe I can also touch that up before re-releasing this. I used, well, some of these props that I had made, I had created them through an experimental method that I figured out through Source 2. But with this new, with Hammer++, there's proper built in, and proper can turn certain static, like certain brushes on a map, into props that you can then reuse over and over again. Um, so that's what I've been mostly using now. I don't know if it'll show up on stream, but it's a proper plus plus is what it's called here, is in the tools menu if you have it yourself. Um, ah, I know exactly. Oop, let me hop back into the transit block map for a second. I want to grab a prop. Specifically, I want to grab this VW Golf prop from the remake of Nuke in CSGO. Residential pre-war. Just to add a touch of further life to these maps. I know that's something that people have wanted for a long time, was to have more, make the pre-war, because this is the pre-war version of Residential Block, feel a bit more active and alive. So we'll do that. Put up maybe a couple parked cars here and there. Actually, let me. No, that should be good. I don't have another pre-war version of this map, so don't have to worry about that yet. Any other spots for this car? Ah, yes, up here. Do this. Let me just rotate it. Let's have it nose in. Put it right here, so that way there's enough room for the players to park if they've got their own cars. Make sure it's level with the ground. Perfect. This is my own map. I made it in 2024, 2023. I'm going back and fixing it now as one of the advisors, one of the channel members. had previously mentioned that there were a couple of issues here and there, and I figured it's a good idea to go back and touch the map up a bit more. And as I went along, I found more things that can be done to optimize it and stuff, which is why there's a huge collection of props now throughout the map. I've found that the less brushes generally there are in a map, the better it can run. And as well, the more you can put in the map. Um, Thank you. Thank you for the subscription. Okay. All right. Yes. Did all that. What else? Actually, I think now that I've had a moment to think about it, I think if I move this closer here, let's what's the distance? 47. It's aligned with that. 63. Okay, we'll do total of 64. Pull this back. And then we'll pull this forward. Move that there. Let's get the pavement aligned. Okay. And now let's move the nodes. These nodes are for AI navigation. Have it come along here as well. And then we can also do one across this area. Perfect. Hmm. Why don't we do this and slice this here. And align it on this side too. That looks a little better, at least I think. I don't like so you won't be able to see it at the moment. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to properly show this next time. But the scale for lighting is a little bit off with some of these ground pieces. So I'm going to align them all, so that way the shadows appear better in game. There's a thing called a luxel scale, sort of like little pixels on different different brushes generally that create the shape of the shadow. And if they're too high, the shadows become really blocky. But if you reduce them, then the shadows get a lot smoother. So, gonna have to also consider that. Ooh, actually, best way to show that is this. Let's turn off the tool brushes. Okay, there we go. So yeah, the larger these squares are, the more blocky the shadows. We shall reduce them to at least 16. That way the shadows fall away nicely. These really small cubes are 8. There is a cost to doing higher luxels, though. But that's mostly at compile time. And if you rearrange some of these to work the shadows a bit better, should hopefully balance out. These at 16, since they were at 64. These ones too. Wow, I really left a lot of these in these higher states. Unselected those on accident. Okay, these are at 4. That's a little crazy. This can be toned up to 8, I think, honestly. To all of this to 8, actually. There we go. Okay. Let's double check the interiors. 16 is all right for the interiors. Not sure why this is 8. Specifically, these are 8. them back up to 16, so that way all the shadows are even on the interior doorway, sorry, the interior sections. Same thing with this. Okay, this is good. Check this floor. Ah, this room is very very okay. There we go. Now it's even. Okay. Interiors of the apartments. Okay, these are good. These are good too. All good down here on the first floor and on the second floor. Let's go up one more floor. Okay, these are all good. All good. And here's all good too. Alright, what about courtyard's pretty good too. Okay, this is gonna need to be touched up here. Here's all good too. Ooh, what's going on here? Let's go back to textured. Ah. It's clipping a bit here. How do I want to do this? My first map was released in 2017, but I've been mapping since 2013, just practicing mostly before releasing. And hello there. This is City 17 residential block. This is a map I made some years ago, I believe. 3 years ago at this point. So I'm fixing up a couple of issues here and there. As you can see, this wall is sort of texture conflicting with these stairs. So I'm going to have to replace these stairs, I think, because this gap is sort of unreconcilable without really chopping up this wall and making it a bit more expensive to run when you're playing the map. Expensive being the term used to describe like how much processing power is used for the map. Thankfully, I do have a solution to this. A long while ago, I made a whole bunch of sets of stairs. And I've already used a bunch on this map, but I want to grab different set here. given the size of the interior, I think we can make the stairs a bit larger than they are and come away fine. So, okay, let's do this. So, have to align it with the ground. Yeah, that's fine. That scale. So we'll take these older stairs. I'm gonna chuck them in an old viz group. The group to basically just visually hide it. So that way it doesn't interfere. We'll convert. That to a regular stair model. Take all of these. All of this. We can replace this one here at the top. The specially made top stair. And there we go. Okay, we'll have to align the floors though, and the railing. The vending machine will have to come out of the wall. Okay. Now I just realized that the problem is that I didn't create a back for this. So let's see if we can create something not too inexpensive out of brushes. Yes, okay. So what I'll do is I'll take this and then extrude it behind where the stairs are. I can see where they are. To there. Ah, perfect. The stairs at least. We'll have to go in and clean up the AI nodes so that way they aren't in things and floating on air, pretty much. Oh. So we'll back that up. There we go. Move the railing. Move the floor. And then just do it one more time, and we'll be good here, I think. Okay. then align it here. Align this floor. Thank you, Mr. McVicker, for becoming an advisor. I appreciate it. Okay. Now all of this is aligned, and we'll have to make sure that the AI nodes aren't all screwy. Believe the reason these are like this was that I originally wanted the stairs to go up this way, but then I realized that it would work better space-wise if they went the other way. So I've got to correct really old me's little goof in not fixing that. So, what's the best way? So move that back. Do this. And then we'll move this. Okay, yeah, we'll just get, actually, yeah, we'll get rid of this. Put this here. So that way, oh, and this needs to not be that close to the wall. Oop, zoomed out a little too far there. Fix this up. This should not be as high as it is. So we'll bring these ones down. This. That's a lot better, but we might need another one up here to ensure the same navigation. These nodes, essentially, they let the AI know where they can move to in an environment. There will be like little strings that come off that are like direct paths between the nodes. For those who haven't used Hammer before or done sort of uh, AI node work before. Um, and while the nodes make direct connections, they can sometimes make the direct connection through a prop. So the best way to maneuver the nodes is to create a path around certain things. Sometimes the engine does make the connection even without you wanting it to go that way. So it's just best to have a little bit of redundancy to make sure that the AIs can move around an area. Like here. Because we don't want the AI to move or to have a direct link through the railing to one of these. So that means it would not be able to navigate properly. And moving it too close to the wall might create some navigation issues because then the hitbox is conflicting with the walls and everything. Now, sometimes stairs can create their own issues like that. So looking at this now, it might be best to do what I actually did. Those other stairs and have two here and here. And then what we can do is we can link the nodes more specifically. So that way it ensures that the AI has a path more direct path between different nodes to make sure that there's no funny business happening here. So the start node will be that one. The end node will be that one. Should hopefully. Looks like it should work. So do this. Have that one. And then that one. Apply that. Let's move this closer to the stair a little bit. This one. This one. This one. And that one. Should be good. Do this, do that. Do this. And do that. Okay, now all the stairs ones should be linked. So hopefully in game it'll look a little bit better. Or the nodes will connect a little bit better, so that way the AI can work through this. And then finally, we'll need to throw it into my new stuff viz group, because that will let me copy and paste a lot of these same props into the 2 other versions of this map that I have, just saving me some time in the future, and meaning that the maps will come out a little bit quicker. Okay. Let's move this to here. We won't hide it. This, and then we'll physically group them. Perfect. Thank you, Philip241202. I appreciate that. Thank you, Darkwing, as well. So this is Hammer++, for those who are just joining. This is a slightly modified version of the regular hammer that Valve used. It's got a couple of neat features and additions. The tool section, for example, has a built-in version of Proper. Proper basically allows you to take these bits of level geo called brushes and turn them into entities like these, where they've got the yellow highlight here, which reduces the count of the brushes. I believe I saw someone ask what the brush count of this map is, and currently it's 7,094. That includes the tool brushes and all of the actual map geometry that you can see here, as well as stuff in the skybox. Gary's mod has an increased brush count of, I think, somewhere over 8,000. So we're well within limits and should hopefully still run well. I think when I originally tried to run this on an older computer, like tried to compile this on an older computer, there were a couple of issues trying to compile it. But I think now that I have done some replacement work on some of these brushes and turned them into these entities, these props, it should hopefully now compile much quicker and better, as well as having Hammer Plus Plus and then having all the various extra tools to help it compile. Okay, so now that this section is done for now, let me do a double check on the light map grid. Light map grid is essentially a series of blocks on that level geo, the brushes, that essentially dictate how the shadows are created by various objects. Um, and the lower the number, the more finely detailed the shadows are, and the higher the number, the more blocky they look. Um, they do incur the lower numbered shadows do incur a cost on when you're trying to compile the map to play it. So it's good to keep it balanced. I generally, as like a base level, try and keep to 16 or 8. 8 for a little bit more detailed shadowing, depending on the area, and then 16 just normally, as that's the base for Hammer, and it looks well enough when you compile it. So we'll do now a little double check in some of these apartment areas in the light map view just to make sure there aren't any with crazy numbers. Crazy. For some reason, sometime long ago when I first created this, I had ones where the number was 4, which is really low, which means that the shadows were really detailed and would have maybe that might have actually been the cause for some of the compiling issues. So hopefully, if I find any more, I can clear them out, make them either 16 or 8, depending on the area. But it looks like I did well to make sure that these interior spaces are all 16. This here, so you can see here that the 16 is the white and blue here, and then 8 is this yellow and blue. So the shadows are going to be a little bit more detailed. And I think that's fine for ground detailing or ground lighting, because the sun will be coming in, hitting here. Though there's nothing really casting any shadows on this, so we can do this. But I think maybe down here, where there's going to be more shadows cast, I think this will be fine to make 8. Do the ground here. That should be good. Also do this just to ensure everything is consistent. Because the other thing is that if you have these light map grids at 2 different sizes, you can see where the shadows change in detail, and that can be a bit of a visual issue. So that's more noticeable when you get crazy numbers like 64, 60, or 32 versus like an 8 or 16. Okay. We can. So this is an interior area. Um, yeah, we can carry this on over into here. My personal preference, like I said, is usually 16 to 8. 8 for outdoor areas because usually the sun is a much harsher light source that causes shadows to be quite hard usually, but not always. Um, so the ground is usually what I prefer making 8 if I have the option. Um, Obviously, walls receive shadows too, but it's a lot more pronounced. The shadows that we frequently see when we're out in the world are usually on the ground. So it's a bit easier to notice when shadow detailing isn't quite where we'd expect it to be if on the ground versus on a wall. That, and usually because of textures, there's not a lot of stuff sticking off of a wall to really warrant that, to warrant the wall themselves needing the extra shadow detail. So we'll quickly go back into here. Yeah, 4. This is a 4. This isn't needed, especially in an underground area like this. And I don't really think the top here needs to be 8. So this will help optimize when I compile. But it'll also make for a more consistent graphics when you guys play it. And that's important, is having a level of consistency in visuals. As I found out over many years of doing uh, level editing. All right. Now, yeah, I don't think these need to be this either. And if everything in the environment is already 16, generally it's better to do it at 16 as well. Okay. Just go back and textured. Okay. Yeah, I even for some reason made the destructible the destructible brushes, and these ones here, the breakables, into 8, which I don't understand. So we'll clear that up. Even the roofs I've made. Some of these the roofs don't even receive any shadows, so there's no point in doing that. At the same time, well, actually, I believe these are in. Sun's coming from that way, so this doesn't also need to be super high. Neither do these. I've found that generally when you're making a map, it's all about a balancing act of making sure that things aren't too extreme in one direction or another. As for those just joining, just doing some work on the shadowing of a map I have created called City 17 Residential Block. Okay. This. Sure to save. Always save. When you're in the middle of working on things, always save. Um, regular hammer crashed a lot, and so I've learned the hard way that it is important to save consistently. Okay. This also doesn't need to be 32. It definitely does not need to be 4. Okay. Well, like I said, the ground is usually the better option if we're going to make things a bit higher on shadow scale. So why don't we do that here? Especially because there's a lot of trees that will cast shadows. And stuff like like the car props will generate shadows. And the buildings themselves generate the shadows. So we'll do this. That is also 8. But of course, this will all require a little bit of trial and error, as this will depend on when I go to compile. The compiling is when you turn the level from just a map file like this into something playable or usable by the engine, for those who may not have used Hammer before. Okay. Better. This doesn't need to be 32 either. Come down to 16. A lot of this 32 that you see here, these blue, this is actually what Valve originally set these scales to in the original levels, as I pulled these from Valve's work. Um, they're because of the age at which these maps were built, having a more blocky shadow was better for their ability to compile on much older hardware, which at the time was not as advanced as what we have now. Back then, four gigabytes of RAM was quite a bit. So by having the shadows really blocky, it meant that they didn't have to spend as much time with the light compile tool, the tool that helped create light, called VRAD. You didn't have to spend as much time in it. But now that we have more modern hardware at the moment, we can, in fact, have these come down substantially, even on maps that are physically a lot bigger than what they were working with at the time. Let's do that now. Yeah, this does not need to be, it doesn't even need to be 8 because, yeah, okay. It's good in there, good in there. It's all good. Make all of this 8. We can make these 8 as well. That can stop being 4 once I've gotten these roads done. And generally, since I'm working on a version that's supposed to look like it's before the Combine took over, and it's supposed to be a lot brighter and sunny, having these lower numbers also helps. Having more detailed shadows helps a lot. You do that by lowering the numbers on something called a Lexel scale. Lexels being the little squares that you see. Okay. Well, oh, sometimes you miss stuff, but let's get rid of this. This. Well, I guess since. You know what? We'll make this just 16. Since if we're gonna do the ground mostly as 8, we'll do this as 16. Like I said before, it's a lot of trading and giving and taking and trying to find a balance. Since lower numbers can eat at your compile times, it's good to try and balance it out elsewhere. And the walls are a better place to do it than the ground, I personally feel, as the ground receives more shadows and we're more used to seeing the ground with detailed shadows. Or at least I am. This can all be brought down to 16. This was all 32. This like aquamarine color, turquoise, does not need to be that. Actually, this was 64. I thought it was 32. Yeah, that should look a bit better in game. Can take this. Do this. Yeah, even the roofs don't need to necessarily be quite as high. Well, given that they are the roofs, they don't really need to be anywhere near as low as they're not receiving as much shadows. Though I think 64 is a bit much. Is we'll go to 32. That's fine. Sometimes a lot of this mapping work is stuff that finding that balance can be quite difficult, so it requires a lot of trial and error. So sometimes it requires going over your work a couple of times just to make sure that everything is working as intended. We will come out of doing this in just a moment. I just want to finish this portion as I've got it on the mind. That's also another thing, is making sure you don't get too distracted doing something else. You forget to or don't notice other things. Though, making sure the shadows all work well and look good is important. That's not going to be seen by people. Oh, is it actually? Yes, it will be. So I'll do this here. Cleaning this stuff up is very important as well, as it ensures things look good and run well when you're compiling. Finding that balance as well is important. Okay. You'll also tweak some of these other areas. Alright, that should be good enough. So we'll bring that down to 32. There are some shadowing, as I see here. Should be touched upon. Some of it doesn't need to be. Okay. Accidentally keep clicking the wrong brush face for the texture work, and this will come down to 16. This doesn't need to be too high. This doesn't need to be too high either. Okay, and then we'll do this last bit here. This can come down to 32. Okay. Now, because all of that shadow work is done on a texture and face basis, the map generally doesn't look like it's changed all that much. But it has. And it'll only be noticeable really when this is compiled at some point and then run in game. Yeah, our Arpazuk, sorry if I mispronounced that. High res light maps can interfere with overlays and other things like that. It definitely eats into an entity budget, I believe. It's a bit odd, but if you're running into an issue like that, that light maps might be the issue. I have found, especially when working on that Left 4 Dead Center map that I did a little bit ago. Uh, I kept running into issues like that. Okay. Is there any other details? Is this connected? Okay. Hmm. Where to next? Let's double check over in this direction for generally anything visual that can be updated or made to be more optimized. Okay, I've already done all that. Does this door? Okay, these doors actually function. That's good. Now I've never been quite. So you might not recognize this, but this is here. You recognize this from the map Overwatch or from other things. Thank you, Azrael. Oh, I didn't catch your name in time. But yes, this is what this area is supposed to look like. Um, Now, when I was going through and cleaning up for the pre-war section, I noticed that there was a little bit of like a concrete base to it, but I've never been quite enthusiastic about my previous decision to do this. So why don't we see about tweaking it a bit? I do quite like the idea of it being sort of like a dead end or parking lot for the entrance to this building, though. So what I can do is actually align it here. See if we can't even this out a little bit. What we can do is we can clip this, since it's a bit back. Clip this corner off. Then we'll manipulate the that. And then using what's already placed here, I can align it with the way it was before. Actually, what we can do is make sure it's aligned here, and then we'll clip any bit that comes off of that. Aligning, almost there. Perfect. What we can do is actually, before we commit to this, could do something like this. Thank you, Combine Collaborator, for the super chat. Yes, welcome to City 17. To everyone just tuning in. I'll have to fiddle with this texture here to align it properly. But for the moment, I quite like this. So I'll do that. That aligns there. This aligns with that. And that all aligns. So to ensure that this aligns further, what we shall do is first we'll clean this up. By clipping this all. Okay, so now that that line is a bit more clear, I can align this bit better. Now, for those who have worked with hammer know, working at an off angle like this rather than 90-degree angles is a bit of a pain, but it is doable. Just have to ensure that your edges, your vertexes here are at a place that you can then clip them. Actually, oh, perfect. See, we can do that. And do that. Oh, perfect. Okay. So we can trim this. So now this bit of roadway here isn't interfering with this brush. The best way to do this is to see about the corners. There we go. And then do the same thing on this side. Now it's important to not clip too far over, so that way we don't have any holes that then can create what's called a leak, because all source maps have to be fully enclosed. They can't connect or touch this void outside of the skybox. So you can't have little holes along the brushes here. All has to be enclosed. So to better do that, will have to be a little bit of texture and brush clipping just to make sure, because as said previously, off angles, not the greatest, not the most easiest place to do brush work. Okay. Now, obviously, we'll have to adjust this. So this will also take some trial and error. I was also never the best with angles in school, so 89, 87. That's looking better. 6. 85. Ah, there we go. That looks quite right. Okay, we'll have to extend this by a little bit. So that way it perfectly aligns with both the curb and the road. There we go. Well, it better aligns now. We can do this. Oops. There we go. That, I very much like that quite a bit more than what I had before. What did I see? I believe that should be good. And you know what? A building like this would have lights up here. So to ensure I'm not grabbing too many new props that when I pack the map are only used once or twice in a couple of areas, I'm going to search for some light entities. Actually, this would work perfectly. I believe, is this? Ah, no, this is one of the ones where it's a separate model for the skin. There's a couple of older models that the skins are separately. Thank you, he is watching, for subscribing. Actually, let's double check to see if this exists anywhere on the map. Just to make sure I'm not pulling in something new. Okay, no. That's the only one on the map. Right now it doesn't show. I'll do this for next time. I'll fix this next time. But there's a tool called the Entity Report, and it allows you to search the whole map for different props. So right now that's what I'm doing. To ensure that I can find a good light to use here. Actually, ooh, perfect. Yes, actually, this should work. I think. Yes, actually, this should. Perfect. All right, we'll grab this. Bring this over here. We'll adjust the angles. Perfect. And we'll touch up the rotation to match the building a bit more. And voila, we now have lighting for this. Now it doesn't show it, but I've changed the texture for the model to hopefully not be on, because this will be bright and sunny. We won't need these exterior lights on. But now it gives a nice little flavor for this entrance. I did notice this as well. So, hmm, ah, little trick I've learned to do frequently is if you've got two textures like this sort of conflicting with one another, you just drag one to come down. That does, yeah, you just drag a corner or some of the ceiling to come down just a hair. So that way, there's no conflict, and visually it looks all right. There might be a more elegant solution I will come back to for that, but for now, that solves that problem. Plus, much of this building is destroyed in game, so we don't fully know what it looks like beforehand. Just some ideas. So yeah. Okay. Now let's ensure that these, I believe, uh, occupation variant of this map has this structure here. Yes, so we'll need to ensure that these lights from the pre-war continue on because these lights would be here after the Combine takeover. And we'll also bring this along to help align where everything is. Thank you, Half-Life 2 Overchud, for the subscription. So, okay. So people have been asking for a very long time how I do these like combinations because this map is actually a combination of several retail Half-Life 2 maps. From 06 C17 D3 C17 6B, which is the underground highway section in the Uprising chapters, all the way to D3C1709, which then also became the deathmatch map Overwatch, which is this area. How I do it is I generally take the maps themselves in whole and then physically align them together. So that way I can work on deleting and mixing and merging the different brushes because every map has an area or a section that is a copy of a previous area or section because that's needed for loading and continuity between the two different maps. So you can use those as like a gauge of where to put different things. So, for example, '09 has a bit of this room here that also '08 has. So I deleted and mixed and merged all the various brushes so that way there isn't as much brush duplication and it all moves smoothly. It all moves smoothly into place. But because that requires being in a group, doing things like this can sometimes cause issues. So, in order to prepare myself for working on the other residential block maps, I've created another group of objects. So I need to take this ground brushwork and these lights to group them up with all the new stuff I have added to this map. So that way I can just copy and paste this group of stuff and then put it into the next map, which saves a lot of time. But now that that's done, is there anything else in this area? Needs to be adjusted. I don't think so. This is a much cleaned up version of the building that Barney is trapped by the snipers in. He is, I believe, trapped on this floor by the snipers during the uprising sections, and then you come in here to assist him. Originally, you'll see him sitting up here taking sniper fire from this building, and then there's another sniper over here and another one over here that fire at zombies. I believe these are the remaining, actually, targets for them. Yeah. I think we'll do one last look at the light maps, but otherwise, I think this is all right. Yes. Bit of a mishmash of light maps. So we'll do this real quick. get rid of these higher light map grid numbers. For those who are just tuning in, I am effectively working on the shadowing for this map. This map is called City 17 Residential Block. I made a couple years ago, and I'm just touching up the shadows so that way the map will look better at runtime. I'm just turning the ground into higher shadows, higher detailed shadows, as that is generally where I think you'll notice the most shadows. Thank you, I love some pee. I need to fix this chair. Bit of an old chair. We shall touch this up. Ground does not need to be this much. Get much better looking shadows. I've said earlier in the stream, but it always it's worth repeating and should be repeated, that a lot of this is trial and error. So we're going to get this to be higher on the light maps for the shadows, so that way it looks better, especially because this is going to be a map that's a sunny day. So we want the shadows to be a bit harsher. And the walls, as the walls don't receive as much shadows, especially in game, as they don't have quite as much coming off of them, do not need to be quite as high detailed. That they also don't need to have as rough. They don't need to be super blocky shadows either. So we'll just make sure. Because the roofs won't be receiving any shadows generally, they can definitely go up. It's all about balance. Ensuring that the shadows all work well and all look good. But we won't know the results until we do play this in runtime in Gmod itself. So this will just be a trial. Sometimes going higher on shadow detail. I don't know why I did that. That was a lapse in judgment. But sometimes going higher in detail on shadows does eat into other things. So if you're having issues with your map, specifically like entities or water indices, stuff like that, sometimes playing with the shadow detailing through the Luxels, which are these squares you see, they can help reduce some of those extremes and some of those issues. But again, trial and error. This can just be 32. This does not need to be 64. But these rows do. And voila. Oh, nope. We can touch these roofs up as well. And now we can do this and there. Looks all right for the shadows. And then we'll do these ones here. Don't really need to touch any of the shadows in the skybox or anything, so this will be mostly the stuff in the map. And voila. This will be... yeah, okay, we'll do this. There we go. Perfect. Oh, just touch that up. And yeah, okay. I think this will be good. Oh. Always double check as well. Double checking, you'll sometimes find other things that you might have missed. Let's do quick. That won't be seen. This will be. These don't need to be like this. It's okay to grab ones with other scales because we're just transitioning these all into the same scale. Do that. Do this. This does not need to be like that. Perfect. This can be 32. Okay. Make this 8 as well. And that does not need to be 128. I can tell you that. It can be 32. And these can just be 16. With this. Okay. Oh, this can be 32. This can all be 32 as well. This is some of the work that's needed to go into making maps. May not be the most glamorous of all the map editing, but it is necessary in order for the map to look as good as it can be, while also being very good performance-wise, and as well being easier for me to compile, so that way I can ensure that things are well tested and playable. This. These do not need to be anything but 16. Okay. I think this looks much better. We can... So there is a lighting preview in this, but it doesn't always really accurately show what it's like in game. We can still try it, however, just to see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good shadow-wise. At least I think it does. Perfect. Yes. Hello there. All right. Though, I think this was a good session of mapping work. I shall test this at some point. I do also plan to stream more of this. I still have the other two maps to work with, and I can show you that process as well. But I think, for the moment, I think that's good for this map. Yes, for those who are just tuning in now, I do plan on streaming more, so don't worry. And obviously, the VOD will be available after this is done. Yes, nothing like a little mapping to kick off the weekend. Um, but yeah, I want to thank everyone who showed up for my very first live stream. I want to thank everyone who donated and subscribed as well. It is so very much appreciated. And I do look forward to coming back and doing more of it. I also will plan to actually have a proper end screen next time. Thank you for coming along on this little experiment. I need to go now as the room I'm in is warming up quite a lot in this heat wave that I'm in. So yeah, I shall see everyone next time. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll catch you all soon. And Gary Mid, I shall take a look at that. Like I said, I will be coming back and doing the other maps. Thank you, and everyone else as well. Stay safe in the heat and take care. I'll catch you all around.